Greetings, friends and followers. This is Nurses Talking. I am Del Barzi. As always, if you like what you see and hear, subscribe, comment. We'd love to know what you think. And here we speak to nurses anywhere on the planet, at any stage in their nursing career, whether they're students or retirees or any place in between. And today, it is my great pleasure to welcome Nerissa Malloy. And Nerissa is a registered nurse of 18 plus years. She's a nurse leader of greater than 10 years, and she says her gift is leadership, workflow, and process improvement. And she walked away from this in December of 2021. Now, she does business development and operations consulting, and she works with profitable service-based female business owners to streamline their day-to-day operations. So, welcome, Nerissa, and thank you so very much for coming.
Thank you, Dan, for having me. I appreciate the opportunity and what you're doing, the platform to highlight nurses and all that they're doing. So thank you for being obedient to the calling.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure. It's my absolute pleasure. So tell me, why are you a nurse?
Oh, wow, I'm a nurse. Wow. I originally wanted to become a physician, an OBGYN doctor. And in all transparency, I love just helping people and the fast thinking, the critical thinking, that critical patient. I enjoy that rush.
Yeah.
But what happened in all transparency is I couldn't get past chemistry. I took that class 3 times and I said, Lord, it has to be something else. And so in that, I discovered, I had a family full of nurses, but I wanted to be the physician.
Yeah.
So, so let me think about nursing. And I started doing some research and I'm like, wow, there's no cap on what I can do as a nurse. I can go in and be a nurse practitioner.
Yeah.
And I thought about PA, but I said, no, because you're still limited. You got to work under the physician. You can only do certain things. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do nursing and just expand and explore. And that's what I did. And I went and did chemistry for health professionals and passed it the first time. And then I went and got my nursing degree. And then here I am to this day. But yes, I always knew that I wanted to be in the medical field. I was always in the medical field.
Yeah.
CNA in high school. So I've always been, had that in the blood.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So what kind of areas you worked in?
Oh, wow. We have time? Okay, so I did, nurses, we work any and everywhere. So I've done the ER, that was my first love. And then I did IV home care visits. I did case management. I branched into OB. The bulk of my years have been in labor and delivery. I think I said case management, leadership, home care, home health, supervising home health aides. I think I did the whole care, the care model for one patient from newborn to even geriatric. I have not done hospice, but I've done almost everything in between.
And so I usually ask that because now I want to know, having done all of that, and I get that basically nursing is nursing, but in all of these different areas, different things are required of you. So what would you say was your greatest challenge?
I would say my greatest challenge was 2 things, 2 parts: leadership and stepping into leadership. Because I was called to do leadership for some time before I relocated to Maryland. But I just refused. I'm like, I like being comfortable. I like, just coming, taking care of my patients and going home. And then when I relocated to Maryland, it was still calling. And then eventually, being obedient, I'm like, Lord, if you keep saying this, or you keep presenting these opportunities, that means I need to get outside of my comfort zone. But a PRN nurse, we love to just come and go. As an ER nurse and an L&D nurse, we have that. We got a patient, we deliver them or we stabilize them and then we send them to the unit. So that was always my mentality. But as a leader, there's no getting rid. Right? You have 24-hour responsibility. You have teams, you have to mentor. You have such a huge responsibility. Not to mention the talk about security because you're non-unionized, right?
Exactly.
So all of those things. So making the decision to take the leap into leadership was hard. And then the transition, learning, growing, finding my way and learning how to, step into a leadership role, and you have multiple departments with no managers. How do you streamline the operations of all those departments? Find your leaders, leverage, delegate until you get the support that you need and still hit the targets and still hit your goals.
Yeah.
See where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
So how that transfers into business.
Yes.
So God was trying to tell me, I have a plan for you. This is your destiny, but I was just not being obedient. So that's a hint to people that are watching.
And that is the thing, these lessons and these opportunities will keep presenting themselves to you until you're like, okay. You're not going to get past, it's going to keep coming around. It's going to keep coming around. What would you like to see change, if anything?
Oh, I would like to see, I have another twofold answer. First thing, I would like to see more nurses own their power. And understand their power, especially those that are still at the bedside, to know that no, you can demand to be valued. You can demand to be paid according to your worth, and you can demand respect from patients, providers, fellow colleagues. If we own our power, we can be and do so much and have so much as a nursing profession and a nursing body. So that's what I would like to see change. And also, again, the people that try to devalue nurses or feel like, no, they should not get a raise, or no, they should not get an increase in pay, when you know that they are the soul, the heart, and everything of the hospital.
The whole backbone.
The backbone. If they walk out, there is no facility.
Exactly. And you just very effectively articulated one of the goals of this particular channel, because I really want us to see other nurses, see each other, and to own that we are individually and collectively, we are powerful. Absolutely. We do bring a lot to the table. When I walk into someone's room, it's not just me. I bring a whole lot up here. Just because I handed you a pill, is more. I did a whole lot more than that in doing that. So yeah.
Yep.
What's your vision now? So you have this. Let me go back a little bit, because you said female owners, only female.
So I have no issue working with men, of course, but it's a difference as far as conversations with time management and organization, because men, they're not selfless. They are, I'm sorry, and I mean this humbly, they do what they need to do. Women, we will think about our spouse, our children. We put everything before us.
Yes.
We get the last. So it's really working with women to understand that, no, you can put yourself as a priority as well, especially when you're managing a home, business, or you're still working full time. How do you prioritize you still in that whole in that whole equation? So that's why I choose to work with women.
Yeah, because you're quite right. Our brains work different when it comes to things like that. Our brains work different. We think in parallel lanes. We're trying to push everything forward at once, and we are at the back trying to push everything forward at once. So you brought me, in talking about that, then you brought me to something else that I usually want to know, because I believe when we talk about, we see all of this burnout and this dis-ease within nursing, and I get it. I understand and I validate that. Yes, the workload is too heavy, the salary is not enough, the management, we're squashed between management and whoever else, and all of that. All of those things contribute to the burnout, yes. But I believe that one of the big things that contribute to the burnout is that we don't take care of ourselves. So what does self-care mean to you?
Oh, self-care is everything, because you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So if you're fully depleted, how can you serve your family? How can you serve your patients, your clients? How can you put the energy into growing your business? If you're burnt out, you don't even have the capacity to think bigger, to be innovative, to even go out and network and collaborate with the proper energy that you need to attract and make connections, because you're tired, you're overwhelmed, you're burnt out. So you really have to think about, how can I refuel, renew, restore, and put me first in some time. You're gonna have to tell hubby and the kids, listen, I need this time for me. You hold them down. They can eat McDonald's. It's okay. That's one night, but I'm going away for 2 hours, or I'm going to do something where I can just be alone and just refuel. And it's so, so, so important. And I learned that lesson throughout COVID, and beyond that. We were burning out. A lot of people walked away from the bedside because of burnout, because they didn't know how to put the balance and refuel. And people are doing that and taking those same practices into their business. So now we need to talk about that. No, we need to streamline your systems and operations.
Yeah.
Give you some strategies so you can generate more revenue, and then relax. That's the framework right there. How can you incorporate that and shorten your workday so that you can have time for relaxation, whatever that is for you?
Yeah. Sometimes we need to learn this word delegate.
Absolutely.
But one of the things I realize, and I think I recognize it in myself too, is that we don't know when we're tired. We are sometimes tired and we don't even know that, because we're so tuned into just keeping going that we don't even acknowledge to ourselves that we are tired. And I think that's where we get to the whole burnout stage, because it's until it's like pushed in our faces that we don't even begin to recognize it.
Until your body starts to break down, or you realize I have an ache here and an ache there.
Yeah.
And then there's some people that know they are tired and they just keep going because they're thinking about, yes, I have the bills, I have this to do, I have that to do. And, again, they're making all of these things more of a priority than their own health and well-being.
Yeah.
So sometimes they are tired and they just block it out. They just miss the cues.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, oh, sorry. So you told me what drew you into entrepreneurship, but well, what drew you into entrepreneurship really? You told me how you got there, but what? Right.
So I've always had some type of hustle, and my parents had businesses. My grandparents had businesses when they were in Guyana, South America. So it's in our blood as a family to just have something extra coming in. I've done like network marketing, direct sales, I've sold stuff. So in my last, I would say 10, 11 years, I've always had a side business or side hustle. And so what I realized during that, while working as a nurse, that there were a lot of women that I was speaking to that were interested. They wanted to do something different. They wanted the additional income, but they just didn't believe in themselves that they can achieve it. They didn't believe that they can actually see the success, or if people would believe in them and their self-doubt. So with all of that and growing teams and hitting different targets in business and speaking to these women, I said, you know what, I'm going to help these women. So that's what made me start my coaching business after leaving direct sales, and building that meantime while working as a nurse and leadership. And then when I walked away in December, it was just, it's time to really go full force and help more women understand their worth and not to burn out in business and in life.
I get it. I get it. And you use that term, you walked away.
Yeah.
I can almost visualize it. Yeah. I can almost visualize it. What advice would you give to somebody who wants to be a nurse?
Wow. So I would say, don't do it for the money, number one. And I would tell them, if you believe that this is a calling, because I believe nursing is a calling, then you go for it. Always be an avid learner, always be willing to learn and grow, and always be an advocate for doing the right thing at all times.
Yeah. And sometimes I have to say, sometimes that's hard.
It is.
Sometimes that's hard. But you really do have to stand your ground and do the right thing, do the thing that you know to be the right
The
thing.
right thing,
The
yeah.
right thing.
Because if it goes against your values, if it goes against ethics, then you're not gonna live with yourself. But if you know what, I know I did the right thing, or I believe that I was doing the right thing and operating in my best interest, then you're good. Because no one goes to work to hurt anybody or to harm anyone or to be disrespectful. But I'm going to advocate for what's right, and this is my belief, until you can show me and explain to me why this is not the case. And if you can't do that, then I need someone else to help me do that.
Exactly. And you really put your finger on it, because when I taught, I told people exactly that no one set their alarm, get dressed, put on their makeup, check the mirror to make sure they look good to go to work, to be abusive or to hurt someone. That's not how you got out of bed. So be careful that you don't do those things. I am looking for words. I want to know, and the reason I ask this is because I want to know what do we see in each other? Because as you said you think nursing is a calling. I actually believe that. In fact, what I say is that I think nursing chooses us rather than we choosing it.
That's true.
But what do we see in each other? So the question I ask is this. If you had to describe the most essential quality of a nurse in just one word, what would that word be?
That's a good question. The most essential quality of a nurse. I would say critical thinkers.
Critical thinkers. Okay. Yep. You can't get by if you can't. You can't do it. Yeah, you can't get by if you can't do that. And that leads to all of the other things that we are, all of the other qualities that we had and that we develop, and that you're forced to develop sometimes on the fly. It leads to the innovation and the resourcefulness and stuff like that you just have to develop.
Critical thinking is key to your interdisciplinary, your escalation, who to reach out to, problem solving, all those things. Especially as a leader, when you get into that category, you need to know how the whole system works. Who can I reach out to help me solve this problem? So it's definitely thinking critically and not remaining focused on the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned escalation, de-escalation too.
Oh, yes, for sure. Sure.
What would you say is your greatest achievement so far? And remember, I said so far. I see, Nerissa's like.
To be honest, my greatest achievement, even coming from a CNA all the way through charge nurse, supervisor, manager, director, my greatest achievement today is professor. Working with the nursing students in the clinical aspect, because I get to contribute at a different aspect. You contribute as you contribute to the patients, you contribute to the nurses, you contribute to the managers, and now you're contributing to the students because of the mass exodus and what they call the Great Resignation.
Yeah.
There is a gap in the learning, the precepting, the training, and the transition for these new nurses. So even coming in and just having that impact and that mentoring and instilling critical thinking from the associates level, I think that is one of my greatest accomplishments, working with these students to just have a bigger view of what nursing is, what your possibilities are with nursing, and knowing what your responsibilities are as a nurse. And it's not just to come in, go to work, and follow orders and go home. And it's the entire care model for this patient. So I think that right now is one of my greatest accomplishments.
Good. You talked about that gap. And as I speak to younger nurses, they articulate that so much. They feel that missing piece. They feel that lack of continuum. They feel they're being, just put here because, of course, we need a warm body and, sink or swim. And it's supposed to be so much more than that.
It is.
supposed to be so much more than that. And so people like you who are standing in the gap really, really, really need it though, because otherwise I don't know what I see happening. And you know, it's not just, I mean, I live here in the United States, yes, but it's not just here. It's not just here. As I speak to nurses, I have spoken recently. I speak to nurses. I've spoken to nurses in Nigeria, in New Zealand, in Sweden, in the United Kingdom, in the Caribbean. I'm hearing the same story, not always to the same extent.
Right.
Because when I speak with people in the Scandinavian countries, for example, it's not always to the same extent, but it is still there. It is still there. This feeling of being, you know what, I'm in deep water. I just need to get out and find something else before I drown.
Yeah.
You know,
it's unfortunate.
It's sad.
We have to do something different, and it's going to require the leadership to think of different ways to help with that transition now that they're short. And so I'm working with some nurses that want to fill in that gap. And how does that look as a business or a consultant? So I think that's a great opportunity now to help bridge that gap, because it not only helps with the transition, but employee retention, patient satisfaction. It decreases, it increases quality of care. So it has a huge impact if they can just address that burden and that gap right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I hear, you know, some institutions or some solutions being put forward about importing foreign nurses. I have no issue, but my issue, my comment though is if you don't change the environment, it does not matter how many actual bodies you put in the space. If you don't change the environment, in short order, we're going to be back where we are, because we didn't actually change. We didn't fix the problem. We do what healthcare tends to do and put a Band-Aid on things that really needs, you know, deep looking at. So
I agree.
I hope that we can actually look carefully at what the problem is. And deal with it.
And address the problem and not continue using the Band-Aid.
I know. And we all know better. But we don't do better. I mean, we have, you know, for example, we have unions. We have associations. And they're valuable. I do not want to as I'm devaluing any of these. But clearly there is something missing. And we need to find out what it is, because if there was nothing missing, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, you're right. Right. And it could be the finances, it could be the financial backing when they have to go against these big entities and these big, you know.
Yeah. And that's another issue. That's another issue from my point of view, is that when you go to nursing school, we are totally care focused and health focused and all of this, right? And then you get into the workplace, and now the workplace is a total corporate environment. Our headspace is not there.
Yeah, you know, we are taught to be about the mission, and then when we get in a hospital setting, it's really about the margins.
Yes.
So that's where there's a misalignment.
That's where exactly. Yes. And all of these, you know, corporate and conglomerates, you know, it's becoming almost monopolies now.
That's the word.
And how do we function in that environment? That's not how we function.
No, that's not the nursing model.
That's not the nursing model. So
we
feel out of our depth, and I don't know.
And when the other thing is, when your values don't align or no longer align with where you're working, that's where burnout also comes into play too, and not knowing your worth, not knowing your value, to say, you know what, maybe it's time for me to do something different or explore, and know that I'm going to be okay because I have how many years of experience.
Exactly.
I can try something new, learn something new, and serve at a different capacity and not be burnt out. But it's recognizing and believing and knowing your power, and knowing that, yes, I can try something new and still thrive.
Yeah. And that is one of the things why I look at, and I speak to all these nurses, I get so excited because so many nurses are pursuing so many different things and so much higher education. And I'm excited because I think this is going to lead to more and more seats at the table for nurses. And if we have all at the table, then perhaps we can make change.
Yeah,
I hope so. I hope so.
Hope so.
Nerissa, thank you so much for this conversation. I mean, I was going into the weeds here. I thought to myself, because I can get carried away.
No, it was a great conversation. I
appreciate it. Thank you so very, very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure.